Hey everyone! For today's One Piece TCG video, we're going to be looking at Crocodile and Doflamingo. Crocodile's ability is when you return 4 Dawn to the Dawn deck, you get to return a character of 5 cost or less to its owner's hand, and Doflamingo, when you attach 2 Dawn when attacking and rest 1, you get to look at the top card of your deck, and if it's a Warlord card of 4 cost or less, you get to play it. I know this video is quite long, so I wanted to go into some detail about some projects I was looking forward to doing. I will do an update video later this week, but I am playing Crocodile, so let's get started on the video. So first I'm going to play Baroque Works. This card allows you to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and pick another Baroque Works card from among them. I already do have a couple of good setups in my hand, so I do decide to get Mr. 1 from the search in order to get a proper setup later in this game. During my opponent's first turn, they did not play Perona, so this turn they're going to have to play character card Doflamingo if they want to set up for their leader Doflamingo's ability. That's exactly what they're going to do here. They're going to rest the 3 Dawn and search the top 5 cards of their deck and rearrange them in any order. This is a key strategy in this deck, as you want to set up this ability right off the get-go in order for you to start using your leader's ability effectively. Otherwise, you're going to have to start playing defensively or start playing 4-cost characters for 4 Dawn rather than 3. My opponent then attacks my leader for 5,000 with their leader, and I am going to decide to take that damage so I can get an additional card in hand to properly set up for next turn. This is an important early game strategy for me, as I want to try to get as many cards in hand and have as many options as possible, because I'm going to have to play defensively until I'm ready to strike mid to late game. So my turn, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Mr. Sunday to prepare my blocker, and then attack my opponent's leader, which they take the damage and activate the trigger Boa Hancock, allowing them to get an additional blocker on the field. With no other moves available during my turn, I pass play to my opponent, and they attach 2 Dawn to their leader Doflamingo, activating his ability in order to reveal the top card of their deck, which is Dracule Mihawk, and playing them rested. Dracule Mihawk's ability is you can draw 2 cards with 1 Dawn attached and then discard 2 cards. This is important, but he is also a 5,000 attacker, which makes him a strong addition to the field for 3 cost. My opponent's leader's attack was unsuccessful as I used my blocker, and then during my turn I play another Baroque Works in order to get an Officer Agent to my hand, which allows me to play during the counter phase in order to play a 3-cost or lower Baroque Works character on the field. We are going to play an additional Baroque Works card here to search for another card and place it into our hand. I do decide to get the Mr. Sunday in order to have another blocker on the field as well. I do take a minute to decide on how I'm going to play this turn, so I will take a minute to discuss kind of what my plans are. So I am going to make a schedule up for how I'm going to be releasing videos, as I want to be a little more consistent, as I am enjoying this a lot. I do want to decide on potentially a 100 subscriber special as well once we hit that milestone. So keep an eye out for those, but I'll be releasing a video later this week as well that discusses that. I do decide to play this turn a little more aggressive. I rest the 2 Dawn in order to play Mr. 1. The reason for this is I do have another attacker available, but I also have Officer Agents in my hand in order to play the Mr. Sunday during my opponent's turn when they decide to attack. It's also important to mention it will not stop that first attack, but we could use Mr. Sunday for a secondary attack. Next, I attack my opponent's leader for 5,000, and they use Love Beam to counter, but they have too many cards in hand for the secondary effect to go off. As the turn passes to my opponent, they have to make the decision whether or not they want to use Doflamingo's ability or Dracule Mihawk's, and they do decide to go with Dracule Mihawk's in this decision. They draw 2 cards and discard 2. Like I stated previously, we're going to play Officer Agents in order to play the 3-cost Mr. Sunday for a blocker. Keep in mind we cannot use her to block this attack, but we can counter for 2,000 in order to counter the 6,000 attack. My opponent then decides to rest 4 Dawn in order to play the 4-cost character Jinbe. This Jinbe is very powerful, as it allows you to return a 3-cost or lower character to the bottom of your opponent's deck, which gets rid of our blocker for the next attack my opponent will declare. Because we do not have an answer for my opponent's leader's attack, we do have to take this one, but we do get to activate Overheat's trigger, returning a 4-cost or lower character to our opponent's hand. I chose the Dracule Mihawk in this situation, as my opponent would have to play them and wait a turn before attacking again, and even if I were to turn one of the blockers, my opponent would most likely be able to protect the Dracule Mihawk from attacks and then have them ready for an attack next turn. This way here, if I attack my opponent's leader this turn, I can potentially get rid of both blockers and they won't have an attacker next turn. With the current state of the board, my opponent needing to attach Dawn to their characters in order to attack, I play the 7-cost Crocodile, which has Banish, and when you attach 1 Dawn to the character, all your blue events cost 1 less to play. I attach 1 Dawn to Mr. 1, boosting up his attack power with the event cards in my graveyard, and I attack my opponent's leader, which then they play Desert Spada, which gives the additional 2,000 power, and as well it allows you to look at the top 3 cards and arrange them in any order, which also can help set up for Doflamingo's attack next turn, allowing my opponent to look and find an additional Warlord to play. I attack with my leader to no avail, as they're easily able to counter it as well. My opponent is playing very well, and they're able to play the aggressive style play early on, and I'm struggling to keep up for that late game opportunity. They successfully attack my leader with their leader Doflamingo, activating his ability and playing a 4-cost Boa Hancock, and I do activate the Sables trigger, which allows me to return a 7-cost or lower character to my opponent's hand. They then decide to rest for Dawn and play the 4-cost Gecko Moria. This Gecko Moria, when you have 5 cards or more in your hand, gets double attack. They attach 1 Dawn to their blocker Doflamingo, and I counter with 1,000. Once again, because I do have a bit of a thinking moment here during this gameplay, if you guys have any comments or ideas that you would like to see for future videos before I upload the schedule, please leave them in the comment section down below, as I'd like to take your considerations into what you would like to see for content. But now let's return to the video. I'm going to rest 9 Dawn in order to play the 9-cost Dracule Mihawk, returning my opponent's Gecko Moria to the bottom of their deck. This is important for 2 reasons. I've started to clear out my opponent's side of the field, and I have 2 heavy hitters to start dealing some damage to my opponent. During this turn, I start to declare some attacks against my opponent's leader, and they're going to have to make decisions whether or not they want to take them, or start using their blockers and counters from their hand. The first thing they're going to do is decide to use their blocker Boa Hancock in order to block the first attack. I do change my mind a little bit. I return 4 Dawn to the Dawn deck, return my opponent's Boa Hancock to their hand, and then I decide to attack the rested Doflamingo so that way my opponent has no blockers on the field currently. Once that is complete, I start with my leader with 5,000 attack at my opponent's leader, which they counter, and then swing in with my character Crocodile in order to deal the first amount of damage. I decide to pass turn, and my opponent decides to start their turn off by resting 4 Dawn, playing Bartholomew Kuma. This Bartholomew Kuma has blocker, and on KO, you get to play a Pacifista 4-cost or lower from your hand. They also decide to play another 3-cost Doflamingo, which allows them to rearrange the top 5 cards of their deck once again. So a bit of a disclaimer here, we didn't catch it in game, and I didn't catch it till I was editing this video, but my opponent's going to attach 2 Dawn to Doflamingo, they're going to attack my character Crocodile, and they reveal Jinbe. Jinbe is not a Warlord card, and I apologize for this misplay. I still wanted to upload the video just because I wanted to show this mistake and make sure that it's corrected, as well as that for informational purposes, and it was just a casual fun match, and we had a lot of fun filming this video, and it's still a fun match to watch. So once again, I apologize for that. Just make sure that when you're playing that you know that Jinbe is not a Warlord character as well. Now that the misplay is done and we can move past that, first thing I'm going to do is I am just going to take 4 Dawn, return it to the Dawn deck, and get rid of Bartholomew Kuma, and then I attack my opponent's leader with my leader to deal the first bit of damage, and then I attack with character Crocodile in order to deal the second damage, and then once I attack with Dracule Mihawk, my opponent decides to block that. Then we decide to pass turn to continue the game. This is where the back and forth really starts to begin, because my opponent's going to play Bartholomew Kuma once again, and I know when on KO, that's when he gets to play another Pacifista, and so he's loading up his board with a bunch of blockers. So this is where it's going to be difficult to deal with, because I do not run a lot of characters in this deck because it's very event-based. So first thing my opponent does is attack my character Crocodile for 7,000. I do decide to play Desert Spada in order to block it, and my opponent's leader's ability allows him to play Gecko Moria from the deck. My opponent then passes turn, and this is where I start to notice my first struggle. I have used my leader's ability twice now, and I'm running low on Dawn, and they still have a ton of blockers on the field. I know I have to get rid of their character Bartholomew Kuma, but I also have to be very careful. So either way, what I'm going to do is return Bartholomew Kuma to hand by playing Sables instead, and then I'm going to attack my opponent's leader directly with 7,000. My opponent easily counters it, which makes this battle even harder now because I'm still running very low on Dawn. I then attack with Dracule Mihawk, which then gets my opponent's Boa Hancock off the field, and then I do decide to attack with Crocodile once again towards my opponent's leader, and they do decide to take that, bringing them down to last hit. This is where the first mind game really comes in. I decided to attack Gecko Moria instead of my opponent's leader because they do have quite a few cards in hand, and I was pretty sure they could counter that attack, which would have meant they would have had an additional character on the field to attack me next turn. My opponent's going to make the smart decision this turn to start attacking my characters in order to wipe them off the field, and because I made an all or nothing play last turn, I don't have much in response, and because they're attacking my characters, it means my life isn't in danger, and I'm not going to have any cards in hand from taking damage from my leader in order to make any other responses. Once my field has been wiped, my opponent plays the 1-cost Perona, setting up my opponent's top 5 cards in order to play Doflamingo's leader ability for next turn. My opponent passes turn to me, and I start to realize that I'm at a significant downfall here, as I only have 4 Dawn now. And this is where it starts to become real difficult, as I need to make a decision on what I have to play or whether or not I should just straight up attack my opponent's leader. Keeping in mind my opponent has quite a few cards in hand still, I do decide to only attach 2 Dawn to character Crocodile and attack my opponent's Jinbe in order to take care of some characters off their side of the field. I keep 2 Dawn open in order to prepare for an attack next turn. After I pass turn, my opponent attaches 2 Dawn to leader Doflamingo and attacks me for 7,000, which in response, after they play the rest of Bartholomew Kuma, I am going to play Officer Agent, which allows me to play Mr. 2 Bon Clay, which with 1 Dawn attached, when you attack, you get to look at the top 5 cards and pick a Baroque Works type event card and place it into your hand. My opponent then plays for 4 the Pacifista with blocker. With 10 Dawn compared to my 4 and a couple of blockers on the field, they're setting up their defenses very strong. They pass turn to me, and with little to answer, I have to make the most of what I got with my 6 Dawn available. I do decide to play it safe once again this turn, and I don't use up all my Dawn in order to use event cards next turn, as my opponent has left some Dawn of their own left open. Whether or not this is a bluff or they actually have something to play, I'm not sure at this point. So I attack my opponent's leader for 6,000 at this point in time with Mr. 2, and I get to pick an event card from among the top 5 cards, and they decide to block it. I then decide to attack my opponent's leader for 6,000, which allows me to keep multiple Dawn sources open in order to play counter cards next turn, and also potentially get a 2,000 counter out of their hand, which I end up doing. The game continues on from here, and I do decide to pass turn. My opponent resets all 10 of their Dawn to my 6 once again. My opponent then decides to rest 4 Dawn in order to play another Bartholomew Kuma, which on KO you get to play a Pacifista of 4 cost or lower from your hand. This further cements their defenses in order to prevent me from successfully attacking next turn. And then they do decide to rest 3 more Dawn for good countermeasures in order to play the 3-cost Boa Hancock with blocker. Knowing I have no characters with rush, they do decide to attack with their 1 Bartholomew Kuma in order to take out my Mr. 2. I do decide to rest the 1 card in order to play my Desert Spada to decide what cards I have available for next turn, and as well as to stop the attack. My opponent's leader then swings at my leader, and I do end up having to take that attack, as I'm going to need as many cards as possible in order to try to turn the tables around during my next turn. Refusing to accept defeat and the inevitable, I decide to take my last hit and move on into my next turn. If you have made it this far into watching the video, I congratulate you, as this match has gone on quite enough. And once again, I do decide to play it defensively, as I still think I can turn this around if I hold on long enough. I rest 3 Dawn in order to play Doflamingo, allowing me to look at the top 5 cards of my deck and decide how I want to rearrange them. For the scheduled release I was talking about, while I'm taking a minute to decide how I'm going to play out my next turn, I was thinking about releasing anywhere between 3 to 4 videos a week, 2 of which being One Piece TCG gameplay, as well as a deck tech, and potentially 1 other type of video. But like I said, if you stay tuned later this week, I will be uploading that video discussing how I'm going to be releasing those videos. I decided to attach 1 Dawn to Mr. 2, and look at the top 5 cards I just reviewed in order to pick one of the event cards from among them. This is important as I know what's already there, as I find it beneficial to help me out during my opponent's next turn and potentially survive. My opponent is finally able to block with Kuma and is able to get out one of their Pacifistas from their hand. However, this is short-lived, as I'm going to return 4 Dawn to the Dawn deck, 3 from the cost area, and 1 from Mr. 2 in order to return the 4-cost Pacifista that they cheated onto the field from Bartholomew Kuma's on KO ability. I then attack their leader for 6,000 with Crocodile, and they do block it with Boa Hancock. With a few tricks left up my sleeve, I pass it to my opponent's turn, and what they are going to do is they are going to immediately attack my leader for 5,000 with Bartholomew Kuma. I'm going to rest 2 Dawn in order to play Mr. 3 from my hand. This is important as it's going to slow down their turn. I'm going to stop Jinbe from attacking this turn, meaning that they only have 2 more attacks available. They first rest 4 Dawn in order to play Bartholomew Kuma, and then another 4 Dawn to play the 4-cost Pacifista with blocker from their hand, further making another defensive wall. They attack my leader for 5,000, and I play Desert Spada once again to block the attack. I take a moment to carefully decide whether or not I want to place the cards on top or on the bottom, as this next turn is most likely going to be the last one that decides the game, as we are both on last hit and it's coming down to the bitter end. I do decide to rearrange the cards and place them on top of my deck in order to draw my last card. From here, play once again passes to me. The intensity of this battle will not let up as I draw my last card. I play a 3-cost Doflamingo in order to set up defenses once again, hopefully preparing myself for an inevitable attack that I know will come. After I decided how I want to rearrange the cards on the top of my deck, as it's still important as I very well may get another turn yet again, I then decide to return 4 Dawn to the Dawn deck one last time. I cautiously make the decision on which card I'm going to return, and it's a very easy decision in the end. I do decide to return the 4-cost Bartholomew Kuma, as it's very important to get that additional blocker off the field, especially if my opponent is ending up playing another blocker. After attaching a Dawn to Mr. 3, they are able to successfully counter the attack. I attack my opponent's leader with my leader for 5,000. They do not use their blocker, however. They counter with ease with 1,000 from their hand. I pass turn knowing the inevitable is coming. My opponent distributes their Dawn effectively, and they start making their attacks. I graciously accept defeat. Once again, thank you so much everyone for watching. I really hope you're enjoying this content. If you like it, leave a like and subscribe for more future videos, and leave a comment for what you would like to see next. Once again, thank you very much for watching.